All right, so I'm gonna show you how to thread some black pipe. This can apply to rigid as well for doing electrical, but you need different dies for making those connections. So off the bat, you see my setup here. You don't have to have this full setup. The main things you need is a way to cut the pipe and a way to thread the pipe. The stand is just an add-on, and the oil bucket is just an add-on. But this, for what I do this full time, so I need this for when I do full build-outs of houses and things of that nature. Rags, lube, cutters, and threaders. And that's pretty much the base setup. Now let's get into material and what to cut and all that jazz. All right, so here we're starting out with the pipe. So this guy, pulled that out of the, my scrap bucket right there of other pipe. This guy, see a little defect right here. This is from when I must have cut it at one point and snapped it, or maybe one of my helpers did that. Whoever's to blame, probably me, but whatever. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to use my cutter. So I have something like this. You can use a bandsaw if you cut straight. Use a fine tooth blade. Add oil so you don't burn out your blades like crazy. But I use one of these. So these guys, it's like a massive, pipe cutter like you use for cutting copper. This is just a single wheel cutter. You got your cutouts for your flares and everything. I also have a cutter similar to this guy right here. This is, again, another single wheel cutter, but doesn't have your stuff for your flares. Got this right here for oil and shavings to come out, stuff collects. I got this guy right here, got a 4-wheel cutter. These guys are nice, but you have to be cautious that this doesn't walk away from you and that the blades are all nice and tight and straight in there. Also, just good practice. Keep all your threads and everything on your cutters lubricated and everything. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead. We're going to lock this down and get this ready to thread. All right, so now we got everything locked down. First thing we're going to do is make sure that everything's locked down nice and tight. Stand's not going anywhere. Sometimes when you're threading big pipe and you're using one of these stands, these guys got a threaded connection in here for 3/4. You can do that. You can go up to a ceiling. So you can put a flat plate on one side of the pipe, thread it into here, and then have like a union or a coupling or something to back it off to basically push this down to the ground so it doesn't walk away. But you're talking like 3-4 inch pipe when you're doing that stuff, and even then, probably not doing that with this. You're probably using an automatic version of what I'm doing here. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to start out, add a little bit of oil on that thing, and this is just car oil. This is used motor oil. That's what I use because it's the pump. I have it for this guy, but it's busted, so we're using this guy. So now we got a nice little bit of oil on here. I got my cutter, my thread cutter here. I have the larger version, as I call it, because there's a smaller version too, but you can't take the big dies. So the way we're going to put this on is you see a nice smooth hole here, and then you got your choppy side here. We're going to put the smooth side in like this. This is the wrong side. All right, swapped it out. We got the right size. I had the wrong size in there. All right, smooth side onto there. Already got oil on there, so we're good to go in that section. Now, sometimes it doesn't always fit on easy like I just did it. Sometimes the way that it was cut, it'll kind of be a little enlarged, and it can't really do that. But also forgot, before we even cut it, we got to ream it. So I have a universal reamer here. In the past, yes, I've used needle nose, I've used channel locks, I've done things you're not supposed to do, and it worked out. This is a universal reamer. What you do is difficult to do one-handed, but see how it's got that kind of handle right there? You don't want to put this straight in. If you put it straight in and then you start doing it, what will happen is you'll end up over cranking it, and you'll enlarge the pipe. And guess what that does for getting the die off, or actually making threads? It doesn't help really. So that's, yeah, I've made that mistake before. So what you want to do is I'm going to try to do this one-handed here. You are going to push in a little bit, push down, and then while you turn it, you're going to see some burrs That's what you want to see. But you don't want to go crazy because, again, we're just trying to get rid of the little edge on the inside. You'll feel it grip a little bit. Shouldn't grip too tight, though, and bring yourself in. And see how I can still move that around? That's what we want. So now we'll go ahead, pull it out. See, I got a little bit of a mess there. We're going to try to clean that up just a little bit more. All right, much better. So now, I like to take my finger, because you don't really want anything to be in the pipe. So now after doing that, you can see it's pretty cleaned up. Don't mind that guy. That guy's from the weld that I was talking about earlier, but it's pretty good. I like this. I'm comfortable with this. So now before we go and start cutting again, a little bit more oil on there because I'll get dripped off. And now's the hard part, because I can't really do this one-handed, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to take the die smooth side over, and you're going to apply pressure to get it started, because starting it is the hardest part. You want to get it started because you want to get started right, because it's going to mess up the threads if you have it a little bit crooked. So you're going to push on, you're going to slowly start to turn it till you feel it grab, then you're going to give it a couple cranks, add oil, constantly add oil, because you want to protect all these little teeth on here, because these teeth are real expensive on their own, and these dies as the holes are real expensive. So yeah, I'm gonna do that real quick. Okay, so now I got it started and everything. Add a little bit of oil, you can see the chips. And so now that it's started, it's still good to keep pressure, but this is just for instruction purposes. This guy's, I use new pipe on every job, so it kind of works out better that way for me. We're gonna keep going and give it a couple turns. For those of you that have done some automotive work and used like smaller taps and dies and stuff, it's generally, this is easier than doing that in my opinion. So also what you do is when you're oiling and everything, you want to line up where these holes are at the top. So when you oil it, it flows down both sides and you don't really got to go crazy. So you can see I'm filling up a little bit of oil there, and keep cardboard or another bucket, or I've seen guys take like 5-gallon buckets and they chop it around the half so you have like a small portion underneath just to catch everything. Because when you're at a customer's house or you're in a new construction building, you don't want to be getting oil stains everywhere like I did right there, because this guy was dripping down there. So we're going to go ahead, give it a couple more threads. Now also note where we are here. Right, so we're going to come out just before this last tooth. And because the way these cut is, it gives a taper. So towards the pipe itself, like this finish guy, this portion is smaller, this portion is larger, and it gives it a tapered effect. And that's why in the beginning I mentioned you have to have the right dies for cutting these threads, because on rigid ENT, it's a totally different die. Can you use these for that? Probably. I've never done it, but probably can. All right, so now we're nearing the end here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. I'm going to switch this around. Now we're going to start to back it off. And eventually, this is really easy. All right, now I got a two-handed. Okay, so here is our end result. So you have some tapers, a little bit of stuff there, but this will do. This will be good. This is where the rag comes into play. I like to clean up everything, make it nice and dry-ish. Because once you go and you start handling this, you don't want to get oil everywhere. You're going to start touching things, and it's going to be a mess. So you take that. There we go. Got some threads. Now, what I do as well is I tape and use dope. So at this point, while it's on the stand, I'll take dope and I'll do both sides after I finish both. I'll tape both sides, and then I'll carry them to where they got to be, and I don't put on dope to the very end, so you don't get dope all over the place, and you put your fittings on, sometimes it's more runny. Here in the Midwest, we got, winters and stuff, it'll freeze. So I like to do it where it is. But yeah, that's how to thread pipe.